Hey everybody, welcome to the Commando cast. I am Mike.
And I'm Andrew, and today Mike and I have both been playing Maul. We've both been loving Maul, so today we're talking our Lord and Savior, Maul. Alright guys, welcome back to episode 43 of the Commando cast. So Mike and I have both been playing a ton of Maul, so we're going to kind of basically dedicate the entire show to Maul, talk about everything including deck lists that people have been asking for quite aggressively. So what have you been playing in terms of Maul?
So my Maul is Watto Maul Retribution. So that's and you affectionately dubbed it the Gamblers.
The Gamblers, yeah.
Because it's all about matching symbols and power actioning into either guns or sticks. So it's super fun. What have you been playing?
So this last weekend I ran Maul and the Mandalorian Commando, trying out the yellow version. Okay. I know we had talked, and I was pretty high on the blue-red version, whether it be Executioner and Lightsaber Mastery I've tried, of course, the Vet with the Veteran Stormtrooper with Retribution, which is superior, and we'll talk about why in a second. Okay. The reason I was so high on the red package was just because of all the removal, Sinister Piece, Measure for Measure. I guess that's really it, but that's two
huge.
Free removal cards, right? So
two of the best removal cards in the game right now.
Right now, yeah. So let's first talk, and that's what you had kind of brought up. Let's go in and talk about why Retribution is superior with Maul.
Right. No, I assume there's many different ways that you could run Maul without Retribution, but I have to say you're probably doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. I just after much play testing, Retribution for me gives my opponents pause on when to remove Maul's dice or not. They remove a 2. If they remove a 2, they end up taking 1 damage anyway, and I can still power action the other one. Mm-hmm. I would say for me, what really hurts is if I get any multi-removal, both Maul dice for a single point feels stupid bad. Right. But Retribution kind of, it helps soften the blow of all those other removal cards.
Yeah. So maybe before we go too in deep into that, we talk about the counter argument to Maul really is that he's not Vader.
Correct.
Right. So I think a lot of people were off Maul early on and continue to be so because his dice are very susceptible to being removed, right? So there are two camps out there right now with Vader, if we can talk about him for a second. There's the Vader Droid Retribution path, and there's the Vader First Order Stormtrooper path. Right. Really, those are your two decks that we're seeing a lot of from Vader right now. I think that I prefer the Vader Droid Retribution version, personally, but the Faust version definitely has its advantages it has its arguments, because I don't think with Vader you need Retribution as much because you can get the dice back in. Right. But with Maul now, right, because he doesn't have the ability to bring his dice back in like Vader does, the removal significantly hurts, so putting that 1 on there at least gives you something. Sure. Now, like you said, the best defense, because remember, so just I'll put Retribution up, and just remember how Retribution works is the way it's worded is it's not every time, if you remove 1 character die, you take 1 damage. If you remove 2 or more character die all in the same shot, it's still only 1 damage per the plot. So in the case of best defense, like he was talking about, that really hurts. Easy pickings really hurts. And Maul does walk into easy pickings frequently.
Yeah, and having the two twos, and it is very susceptible to it. So when we talk about removal, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but one of the reasons why I decided to build my Watto deck the way that I did was because I kept running into the heavy removal, and I was like, man, if I get hard stopped turn 1 and turn 2 with nasty removal, and maybe I only get 1 power action off, and I do 6. If I get lucky, 6 damage or 4 damage. The cap, we talked about that. Maul's cap is low. Even when you just remove a single die, he only then gets his power action, right? So I decided to build a deck that was resilient to that. How can I get damage through in spite of Maul's dice getting removed? So that was my idea, and I feel like that was with your version. That was kind of the same idea.
My later version, yeah. I mean, it's with all the decks I've played with Maul. I think we're both in agreement, right? You cannot count on Maul to be your damage engine. Right. Whereas in Vader, really what you're doing is you're using that third guy to just be a meat shield or support Vader. Right. I don't think that works with Maul, because you're too susceptible, like you said, to getting blown out, time locked. Right?
So we've created a 20-point damage dealing support character.
I mean, basically, right? And you and I had even talked briefly, and I never got it. I think we actually talked about it in the last cast, and I never actually did put it together. I never got it off the table. But we were actually talking about single Maul and Django, right? For kind of that who do you go for type scenario. So that actually evolved for me, if I can talk about my deck from this weekend first. I moved into the Mandalorian Commando because he's a 9-point guy who's pretty darn good.
Right.
And he has an interesting power action where if you play a weapon, you can power action and play a weapon or equipment from your hand, paying for it, of course, and deal 1 damage to a character. So what ends up happening is you're loading up the Commando and making him a beast at the same time that you're threatening with Maul, and they have to deal with Maul. So, I mean, I don't think going for the Commando first is the right option. Like, I still think you go for Maul.
Right, yeah.
But by the time you get Maul done, the Commando's got
probably 2 good weapons.
Right, like we're talking Vibro Cutlass. I actually didn't run the Darksaber because
I put Darksaber back in mine.
Yeah, I took it out because it only has the 2 damage sides, and if it's on the Commando, there's no bonus there.
Right.
So I actually just went with Vibro Cutlass and then Pulse Cannon, obviously, right? And all of a sudden, like, if he's got a Pulse Cannon, a Vibro Cutlass, and like some little twofer, he can be a pretty scary threat in game, right? So
did you find that you were using the almost like the Django equipment package on him, like Bounty Hunter Mask or any other like cheap, like maybe Vibro?
Oh, I wasn't using Bounty. I didn't think about that actually.
I mean, not for the Bounty Hunter thing, but to ping and to get an extra health might be useful.
So I'm not actually. I didn't think about that one. I could run that one. No, I'm running a lot of the 2-cost sabers. I just put them on him instead. I'm running 2 Maul sabers. I actually ended up putting Maul Saber on the Commando. Like,
what are the sides on the Commando? I can't remember.
He's a 1 gun, a 2 gun, and then a 1 melee, shield, no money.
Is that the same size as Django?
It's except Django's got money.
Money. Yes, right. But his damage sides are the same. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
so
good touch, FFG.
I think it worked pretty well. I mean, again, it's not a super top tier deck, but I think it outperformed the Trooper versions we've been looking at because it basically gives you another valid target when Maul goes down.
So Maul is at elitist 20 points.
Correct.
Right. So I think when people are comparing Vader to Maul, and we have said the same thing, that Maul's big problem is he's not Vader. Right. But in playing with him and seeing how flexible the list is into different matchups, I feel like Maul, because he's only 20 points versus the 23 that Vader is, there's way more options for running him with other people. And like Vader, if Vader goes down in your Vader list, unless you got Vader's fist out during the game, your game is almost always over unless he absolutely mopped everybody up within like 1 point, and then the Foss sometimes can take care, or the battle droid, although that's really hard. Whereas I feel like with both of our builds, that if I lose Maul round, let's say, if I lose Maul round 3, right, like, or even late round 2, if the game has gone the way I wanted it to, I still feel like I can finish the game. Like, I'm not in mortal danger at that point. I'm not. I'd much rather Maul be alive than dead.
Yeah.
But whereas if the same thing happened to a Vader deck, that game is just 80% of the time is just over.
Yeah. And so I mean, I don't know. Maybe where you're going with this is that we do compare them, because they play similar, but they're not a direct comparison, right?
It's very different.
It's different, or as long as you're playing it the right way, which I think we're starting to find with using that utility character to either get pirate speeder tanks and fists on the table, or to, in my case, just have another guy loaded up. You're not playing it as like Vader's a 15 hit point deck, right? Unless you're playing with indirect, right? And Maul's not. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of options there. So let's go ahead and go in depth with your deck. I know a lot of people have been blowing you up on that.
Yeah. So
asking for deck lists. I do just want to say real quick, and this is an Andrew statement, not a Mike statement. Mike's been playing his deck on video. If you want to know his deck list, take like 2 or 3 minutes and go through the video and fast forward and get a pencil and paper, and you can probably figure out the deck list. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm. You know me. I'm a little more free with my. With my deck list, so I certainly don't.
I'm just saying, instead of just straight up, not only are you not doing a deck, not only are you not deck building, you're taking somebody else's idea, but you're like taking the easy way to take somebody else's idea. Like, anyway,
it's funny because I'm in a lot of other different games, like their Facebook pages, and like 75% of all the posts in those are like, hey, what list, like top 8 list. So I'm kind of
immune to it.
Yeah, I'm kind of immune. But I find it a little flattering. I don't know. But anyway, so let's talk about my list. So it is Elite Maul single day Watto, and we're gonna put it up on the screen here for you, so you have to hear me talk. But you can see my you can see my upgrade package is probably the most flexible portion of the list, I would say. The only upgrade that I truly care about, I would say, like there's 2 upgrades I really care about, and that is Maul's lightsaber. Because once it gets on him, there's some trick plays you can do where you actually get to power action with his lightsaber, and then if you have money, like after you're done, you power action the lightsaber itself back into the pool, and then sync it up with a Maul die,
straggler die.
Yeah, so it's super cool, very good with his power action. And then pulse cannon is like, I mean, well, you know, my love affair with pulse cannon is well documented. Like
I think pulse cannon is it's like a baby Vader's fist, right?
Yeah, so
that card is amazing.
So those of you that are optimizers like me, I would say if you're going to optimize the deck, I think those are probably the 2. Everything else is pretty variable. I really like Dooku Saber because it pings damage on. I mean, if I could find more things that do that, that's probably the next iteration of this deck. Is how can I get more damage out of hand? I've been unfortunately playing a lot of Ewoks for and against and testing.
Yeah, Dooku Saber feels really bad in the Ewoks.
Yeah, and I've got a new affinity for burn cards, like, and also playing Raylo is just a lot of burn, like,
sure.
Those are you can see the upgrades on there. I just recently added Darksaber back because it gave me another delve target. That was the problem I was running into, is I only had 4 delve targets, so it gives me a 5th delve target.
You're still playing, well, we'll get to support.
Yeah, so supports are Pirate, Speeder Tank, and Vader's Fist.
2 of each,
yeah, and that's mainly for delve targets. If I can get one of them out round 1, if I get a fist out round 1, I usually win, unless I get, like...
Wait, really? That's never happened.
I know, shocker, right? Yeah, it's a profound statement. The Pirate Speeder Tank doesn't feel quite as good, but it's pretty useful. Like, it's a good die, and it's really hard to vandalize. It is really hard. If I'm spending 3 and a card and an indirect to delve it out, and then you desperate measures it and take 5 indirect. I mean, I don't want that, but like that feels pretty good. Someone asked me today I think on YouTube, it was a question on YouTube. I didn't see Entourage. What about Entourage? And the answer is I don't own any Entourages, so it's not my list. But
would you run it?
I don't know at this point. When I first envisioned
I don't know that it fits your tech.
Well, see, here's the deal. If I get to 3, which happens often, right? When I get to 3 resources, if I don't have a delve and a vehicle, like one of the big supports, it just doesn't happen. So having the entourages maybe gives me another out for my cash. The problem is there's no...
You have Pulse Cannon at 3, Maul's Saber at 3, Delve at 3. Like, I think you're okay.
Yeah, it's just obviously such a good dying card. So I don't know if I'd put it in. Certainly, play with it. It makes Watt a little more dangerous. The problem is there's very little focus in the deck, right. and I don't want to be doing too indirect with my entourages. Like that feels bad.
And at that point, then are you playing Fickles too to try? Because
and that
feels
changes
bad
the whole list, right?
Because Watto's a scoundrel, and obviously he's going to be on the board last, usually, right? So then you're really only looking at a 3-point special. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't, like I said, it's not in my deck right now, mainly because it couldn't be. My early idea was to have, because Watto was a scoundrel. I'm like, oh, Watto's a scoundrel, that's amazing. But it's performed well without it. So I don't know. But so the event package is actually probably my favorite part. Active Cruelty. If you're not running Active Cruelty right now, please go put Active Cruelty in all your Villain Yellow decks. It is bonkers, and you don't have to always do it when you're about to kill a character. Like there's 2 copies of the card, so sometimes in a game where we're trying to race for damage now, like
one for 3 is still good.
Yeah, right? 1 for 3 is very good, and if you can, the dream, and you've probably seen me play it a little bit where I will switch targets with my Maul deck sometimes to make sure that everybody has damage, and that's the reason is I'm trying to make sure Active Cruelty is the most.
There's another reason for that, right? In that Maul's power action has to hit 2 characters, so like burning down in a 3-wide, burning down 1 character and then going for the next character is not always optimal with Maul. I know it sounds counterintuitive because the best removal is killing somebody, but his power action doubles his die.
I will do it like, so if I get stuck on an undamaged side, I don't want to discard, I'll do it and take the damage on Watto. A lot of times, like that's because to me, 2 damage on Watto and 2 damage on you, I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, if you're stuck on the die, right?
Yeah.
But
obviously the delves because it's a delve deck, and then you can see the event package. I went 2 Entangles because I usually have a lot of money, and Watto's the last last Taldarian standing usually. Mm-hmm. So I like that one. I'm running 2 Fear and Dead Men. Although man, I haven't been able to get that off.
It seems good.
Yeah, it does. It does feel really good.
Well, it seems like you don't have an option in an Ewok world.
Right, the world. Sorry, I need a book table there. And then you can kind of see the rest of it. So that's my deck list. There's a lot of play in here. I do not think this is the best version of this yet, but this is the most fun I've had with a deck in a while.
So let me ask you some questions on it then.
Sure.
What do you... So delve obviously is a key in your deck. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about not running Watto, going with like an 8-point character double down in another delve?
Oh, interesting. I hadn't really thought of it. So I'm open to it. Give me an idea for an 8-point yellow...
I mean, Trader.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head, the Corrin Tracker actually is not horrible.
He's got... his damage side is only if you have a bounty on them? His special side?
I think it's... I'd have to look at it. I think it's just more if there's a bounty.
Oh, okay.
But maybe it is bounty, actually. In which case, okay, maybe not, but...
I like Trader, though.
Yeah.
Trader's...
Or is there a hero card you've been wanting to run ever in Maul? Because you could... Actually, that's totally the right answer, is the Marauder. Because he's worth an extra point. He's a scoundrel.
The pay side of the damage, though, that's like the...
Yeah, that's true.
That's where
you can rendezvous. Right?
Yeah, but right,
and then
maybe I certainly think
I'm just
spitball. That's how great decks are made. Is your friends are like, hey, have you tried this? I tried. Brenton told me to try Jabba, and all last week I tried Jabba, and
you're running well connected and truce and stuff anyway, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, in my Java version actually is a little heavier on yellow events for obvious reasons, right? So I think you could probably use that package in with the with the Marauder, right? So because I don't really necessarily care.
And then what hero card would you bring? You get one. Is there a hero card that you would bring to the table? I don't know. Again, I'm just doing this off the cuff.
Easy Pickens probably would be
just one easy Pickens.
Yeah, just one easy Pickens. I mean, it's funny. Like splashing villain into hero always feels like super overpowered, and then when I try to splash hero into villain, it's always like, but there's like 5 other villain cards that do the same thing but better and cheaper. Like
right.
It's go figure. But I guess thank God right now. Otherwise, I mean, there would be no other deck but droids out there right now. So we ran this thing up.
There'd still be Ewoks.
We played over the last week. We ran this thing into droids, Ewoks, and it did well. This deck loses unfortunately, unless I get a really lucky Fear and Dead Men off, it loses to droids about 80% of the time. Or I'm sorry, it loses to Ewoks 20% of the time. It actually owns droids. I feel like it does a really good job of taking care of droids. But I've probably got 60-65% against droids.
See, I guess that surprises me given their ability to take money away.
Oh no, that sucks. So playing, we actually did some testing last night. Eric and I did some testing, and he's running his droid version, and he's all in on I'm going to cheat out, take your money, and take 2 money, and play the game that way. So I played the entire game on 1 resource or 0 resources the entire game, unless I would try to get him to claim so I could well connected and truce and try to get some money out there.
And so is he playing Chopper 5 die?
He's doing the version he was playing last night was Chopper 4 die
with Faithful
companions. Yeah, and that's actually a mill version, and it's so we played it and it was a little soft in a couple spots, and then this by the way is how I find the most fun testing is Andrew and I will play together in testing, and then we will have real life discussion like, okay, why did you do that? What would be other play? What are the chances? Because he's kind of a math guy, so a lot of times I can look at him and go, that feels like it's the right move, but mathematically is that the right move? And then I can figure out whether I'm going to listen to him or not and just go with my gut, or I'm going to actually do it. So Schmidt and I did the same things last night where we're playing, and we played the droid mill, and then we kind of switched some cards out, and man, I really feel like we tightened that thing up. The problem is Chopper only there's in the 4-die version, Chopper is the only character dice with any discard sides, right? So the trick then is to find other cards that have discard sides or other tricks. Clever Distraction's really good. Strength through weakness.
Yeah, I like Chopper a lot. Actually, I mean the whole salvaged arm, grappling arm, overwrite, bring it back thing is amazing.
It basically every turn droids day out into Chopper flip to the discard, C-3PO with salvage arm to discard 3.
Right.
And then there was one turn when he did it with the sonic detonators, which has a 2 discard side. So he hit me. He actually dropped my entire hand because he had another discard side too.
So it's dual R2, single 3PO?
So both single die R2 and C-3PO. And then double die. The double die Chopper.
Oh, double die Chopper.
Because he's the only one with discard sides.
Yeah, because and then with Fateful you get to resolve 2 or flip 2, but you're probably resolving 2 because
that's usually what happens.
So ideally what he's getting is he's disrupting you and discarding at the same time.
Correct. Or if he needs to, he'll shield, discard.
Okay, sure.
So early game it's deny and take.
Right.
Or deny and then discard. Late in the game it turns into shield and discard. And then so I mean it was sorry, this turned into a droid cast, but I thought it was really fun, but we ran a lot of stuff into it, and this deck, it performed really well into what I consider a pretty good deck. And I've played aggro droids.
But if he's playing Mill though, that keeps Maul alive.
Correct. Right, but that's the problem with any mill deck, is it can't ever murder.
Oh no, I'm not attacking his side on a mill deck. I'm just saying the performance into a mill deck you expect to be significant. Like I think Maul is pretty good into mill.
Right. In more power actions, right? Because if the game goes 5 rounds, that's 5 power actions. So that's more damage.
Right.
That mill deck, actually, we played it into Ewoks 3 times, and it beat Ewoks twice. And I was running the Hyperloop, and granted, I'm not like the best Ewok player, but I'm not bad. And it ripped up Ewoks twice.
You were playing the Hyperloops list?
Yes, I was playing the Hyperloops list. It was the same thing, though. He would cheat in, take my money, and Ewoks does not perform well without money. Like all of its stuff, it only has one way. If it doesn't get a kinship, like it's not getting any money. And that deck runs only 5 Ewoks, right? It's 4, and then Chirpa.
Yeah.
Right, so it only ever gets the single resource off of kinship, if I remember right, because you have to have 6 to get the double resource off kinship. So it was interesting anyway. So it was cool. And
well, if that's the case, then why wouldn't they play Well Connected instead of kinship? I guess just a card. But
I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So it was super fun, and we did a lot of testing with it. But Maul performed well into a lot of testing. So this list is super fun, I think. So my invitation to you: take the list, fix it, make it better, send it back to me. I'll play your list if you think it's any better. So
fair enough.
I love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just talk real quick. So this is going up on Friday, like it always does. So by this point, all the videos from the Gungai tournament this last weekend are up. And I wanted to just spend a real quick 5 minutes talk about the Gungai tournament, and then we'll get out of here.
Sure.
So the big news is everybody knows by now, but Sarah won.
Yeah,
right?
Sarah.
So go Sarah for Jin Cassian Millkill. But we had a super great tournament yesterday. I had a great time. There were no Ewoks.
Yeah.
And there was some really cool decks out there. So we had a Raylo, we had my Maul Commando, we had 2 Yoda Ahsokas.
Really?
Yeah. So both Jeremy and Amy were running Yoda Ahsoka. We had Jin Cassian. We had a Vader First Orders, the change we ended up making. I was helping Ruth Ann with her deck. We dropped Executioner because it was Executioner Bitter Rivalry and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we swapped it for a Faust. Mace, Admiral Mace.
They were Mace, yeah.
Right, with Padme, which is fantastic. I wanted to talk about that for a bit. And then I don't remember the other 2. I'd have to write down a list.
Yeah, but it was fun though, and a lot of
it was great. We had a lot of variety, but man, that Admiral Padme deck, Admiral Mace deck is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty I was messing around with it on binder, like in my binder. the deck kind of like builds itself. Like there's a couple tech slots in there, but like I think like 26 of the cards, you're just like, yep.
Right, it makes sense. It's very intuitive deck building for sure.
So it's a super cool deck. It does not play itself at all. There's a lot of decision points, and I think what we're seeing in Destiny right now is, and maybe this is not just in Destiny, maybe it's an overall statement, but the reason that you can take someone like Bobby Sapphire and do so well with a deck like Ewoks, right, is as the number of non-trivial decision points goes up, it starts to always favor the better player. Right. And which has always been kind of a problem in Destiny, is that like just roll threes, right? Like
it's so easy.
But with Ewoks, like there are a ton. Every time somebody rolls in, even Ewok, there's a decision point to be made. Where do I put unless of course there's target acquired. Where do I put the damage? How do I put the damage? How do I deal with it? Which guys do I go for? Right. As the number of decision points increase, it skews, I believe, towards the advantage of the better player. Right.
Yeah.
So a deck like Mace Padme should be very popular, I think, right now with people who don't like deck building.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty straightforward. But the play is absolutely 100% not.
Right.
Like there are a million decisions like, when do I resolve focus for indirect?
Right.
When do I focus into other stuff? Right. And Mace is just, when Padme's alive, Mace is incredible.
Right. Because it in essence has 4 damage sides.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, not that I use it very often, but there are times when I've definitely used that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say with Mace, using his focus for indirect feels bad, but you can.
You can, yeah.
Right. And I do think the one card I think that I think people should be testing, and I didn't see in Steven's list yesterday, is target intel, which allows you to resolve the focus the indirect, resolve indirect as direct.
Oh, jeez.
Because there was one point yesterday in the final.
Is it all of your indirect action?
No, that's one die.
Okay.
But it's a 0 cost, right? So I prefer that. I prefer that over improvised defense, or not improvised defense. The yellow support, right?
That stays for the round.
For the round. Yeah. I've always preferred the red version, the red card, just because it's a little more surprise. But there was a point yesterday where Sarah had Cassian with 9 health and 2 shields, so he needed 3, and she had the kill on the dice. And if he had a Padme 3 showing, and if he'd had target intel, he could have blown Cassian away and probably won.
So the card you're talking about actually states resolve a die, and it's not showing, right? It's not one of those ones where
it is. It's the Ataru strike ruling.
But once it says the word resolve, that's when her ability kicks
so
in.
It works because you're resolving her focus as indirect, and the card says when you resolve a indirect as ranged, right?
Okay.
It's the Phasma Troopers thing. So it's Ataru strike.
Yeah.
It absolutely 100% works. I think you need to play one of those.
That's sick. Like you,
because there's 3 focus sides on Admiral and stuff too.
It just messes you up. Like as a player, when I'm looking at my board state and you've got 5 indirects showing, and I have 11 health, 3 and 8 on another guy. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I'm just fine to carry on with my game plan.
Right.
I don't want to take that much indirect, but I mean I can kind of divvy it up. But if I'm operating with the understanding that this guy's okay, I am not actively resolving their dice quickly to get value out of them. And that card just
and that was exactly the situation. Like because Cassian's dice, as you know, right, not only resolve for damage, but they also resolve for damage or mill if you want. But in this case, the damage off, right? He could have saved, I think, 5 value.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, he would have had to have the card in hand and all that. But I mean, with Mace, you're chewing through your deck. And, anyway, that was just an observation I had. But the other card that I was really impressed with on Sarah's side is the DX2 Disruptor Pistol. Right,
the one that makes it unblockable?
We actually got to spoil that one, if you remember.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's so it's not just that it's unblockable, but it also turns anything it modifies into unblockable. And remember, if you're modifying a 1 and you have 18 pluses with it, and one of those is the DX2, it all becomes unblockable.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because it's not turning the pluses into unblockable, it's turning the base into unblockable, and
there's
modifiers modify.
Bunch of shielding going on right now because of Ewoks. A lot of people are playing shields, so I can see where it would be.
So just slicing right through. That's what I was thinking exactly. You're right there. Was for the Ewok matchup of like, all right, go ahead and diplomatic protection. Boom, boom.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I was impressed with that card too. So I don't like that it doesn't have ambush or read a play, obviously, but like. Pretty good.
I would say there's very few plays in Destiny that feel as empowering and fun as waiting, like playing your round and then overriding into Admiral because and not paying for it because you overrode, and then spending the 2 to stand your character up, and then that almost feels like an auto win if your opponent, especially towards the end of the round when your opponent is like, I've used all my stuff and money up, and then you get to just go to town and you have dice with focus. Right.
That's the key you just said, is it feels really good if you can focus in, because a lot of times when you're pulling that off, you only have like 1 card left in your hand. Yeah. So I think that's why the Mace Padme version works so well. It's just the sheer amount of the zonkers focus. Right. Because remember, on Admiral, you can't use the focus on Admiral because you need the special on Admiral, assuming it's your first roll in, right? And that's why it works pretty well on Palpatine too, right? Admiral Palpatine, because Palpatine has a ton of focus, right? So. I don't know. Admiral feels really good right now. Really good right now.
I heard some other casters talking about how they were a little surprised that there was 0 Admiral decks played at Gen Con. Like that was kind of a big, like they kind of expected, because it is. I mean, it's strong. Have you ever played with it or against it? Those are 2 very powerful characters.
I was very impressed
and Mace. Like either one of them can finish you. Either one of them can put early game pressure on you. Like they're both. I mean, obviously Mace is probably better just because he does direct damage. But if you put an Admiral on Padme at the end of the game and she's doing 6 to 8 indirect twice, like that's still really strong. So good. I'm glad you had such a good tournament. I'm really proud of Sarah because no one has shown dedication to an archetype more than Sarah. Like that is
but she's been flexible with it too, right? Yeah. So I mean, it was a couple weeks ago we kind of had the discussion. Look, it looks like Jyn Cassian's actually pretty well positioned from a damage standpoint, and she shifted to that and she did it well, and she got her tourney. So good job, Sarah.
Good job.
So. Yeah, I mean, pretty much we've got Monday Night Dice here this week, and
so I'm on like a little bit of a Destiny hiatus this week.
Oh yeah,
I missed yesterday because of a milkshake party, which I was pretty excited about, but I did miss. And then I promised my Transformers players tomorrow that I would be playing Transformers with them. I swore like no matter what, I'm playing Transformers. So I'm actually not going to play. I'll be there, but I won't be playing Destiny.
Gotcha.
But I've been playing a lot, like with friends and stuff. So TTS, but.
Cool.
It's a little hiatus for me. What do you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much just a standard. Got some relatives in town, so thank you for moving our recording day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they'll be in town, so maybe not there on Saturday, but I don't know. Looking forward to it. The local scene's pretty good. I'm back in revived. It was.
I was like you, was feeling a little bit down on the current state of it, but just like that happens all the time. Like someone comes up with a really good deck, and a really good player comes with a really good deck, and it feels so daunting. Like that, I'm never gonna beat it. Like I'm talking about me, not about you, but I'm not gonna beat it. And then we don't give ourselves enough credit as game players, I think sometimes, that we're going to overcome. Like the meta will shake itself out. I mean, there are still some problems, obviously. We've talked about them, but it does, like Ewoks doesn't feel, it feels bad. It doesn't feel unbeatable. Droids, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, droids were going to be the death of this game.
And I still think they are. I'm not worried about Ewoks, but I'm really concerned about droids.
It is a feel bad, but they're beatable. Like, and as a competitive player, like that's all I want. I want to feel like I have. If I sit down for you and I feel like I don't have a chance, and I brought a good deck, that's not good. Yeah. And that has been less this week than 2 weeks ago. So maybe it's just me. Maybe it's a mic problem.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I've just been enjoying I'm seeing a lot of people bringing some really cool ideas to the table, and that warms my heart, right? So it's not just let's bring droids and roll droids all day, right? We've had some sort of stuff, and actually, it's the last thing I'll say, and then we'll get out of here, right? So Lee, relatively new player from other games, but relatively new to Destiny, he kind of came in, bought singles, and he made a Phasma deck.
Sure, remember?
And then we were talking. He was running Executioner, and I was talking with him 2 weeks ago about how he should try Mud Trooper, right? Because obviously we heart Mud Trooper.
We heart Mud Trooper.
And I was actually looking at that deck. That's a sweet deck, right? Because you can play Retribution, and again, maybe I'm just on a Retribution kick right now, but I mean, they just don't remove there's no value for them in removing First Order Stormtrooper dice when you have Retribution.
I'm really surprised that Phasma has not, and maybe it's the Ewok thing because she doesn't have a way to like heal herself, right? But man, that deck especially when Retribution's on the table, that thing puts out a buttload of damage. Yeah. Like,
Because, so, I mean, what stinks about Phasma not having advanced training is that you get a bunch of blanks, like a ton of blanks. And Mud Trooper helps fix those slightly.
Right.
He doesn't, it's like, throwing a bug at a windshield, but it helps.
Right.
But again, with Retribution, like, you don't need to worry about it because if your guy rolls in a 1, like, they're not going to remove it.
Right.
So you're done re-rolling, then you pitch to re-roll your blanks, and whatever you get, they're not going to remove it.
Right.
So I don't know. So I might modify my Phasma deck and try that out because it looks
I know
super
you
fun.
love you some Phasma.
I do love Phasma. I always have. So
all right. So I have one point of I want you to think, and all of our viewers to think this week. I added moving rocks to my Raylo deck. That's the last thing I'm going to say this week. So just put that in there. I just think about what it means in the current meta. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. With we have actually not talked about that rules change on the cast. I realized that 2 weeks ago. So what was the change that makes that actually relevant now?
So it used to be that if you had an ability that triggered and it had the word move, that there had to be a net gain.
As it pertained to shield.
As it pertained to shields, yeah. There had to be a net gain for it to trigger the ability of it. And what it meant was if a card said move shields to someone and they were at max, you could not do it because it was a moving, and for whatever reason, you could gain over, but you could not move over. They changed the rule to be the same. So now I can move. So if I've got 3 shields on Rey and I've got 3 shields on Kylo, I could proc Kylo's ability and move a shield from him to her. It used to be that was not allowed, and it just falls off. Yeah. Like adding shields. Yeah. So moving rocks says that it basically has a 3 cost remove all the shields on your opponent's board and then move them to you. And if you're not, you add them all that you can, and all the excess fall off. And my whole reason for doing it was I was running into a lot of diplomatic protection Ewoks, and also Yoda. Those were my 2 issues. And then, yes, you can run Frighten. Yes, you can run Intimidate. But the diplomatic protection it's so hurtful. Like that is the worst. So that was kind of the thinking. So
yeah, so you're just running 1 and just trying.
Yeah, just run it, and if I get to 3 and it happens, otherwise it's a pitch.
Raylo does okay for money. Actually, I've noticed as it plays. So I mean, it hurts early and then later on.
Not against droids. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Right.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining me, Mike. That's pretty much all we've got, I think. So, hey, again, if you like what we're doing here, we appreciate the like and subscribe. If there's nothing else, go Commando.
Go Commando.